So this is my top picks from this year's classic car auctions. It's been a fantastic year for classic car auctions here. It's been really, really good. We're becoming more and more well known, and the quality of the stock has been fantastic. My three top picks would be one we sold in July, which was the 1994 Rover Maestro AA van. It was fantastic because it had every conceivable AA part of it from the time. It had all of its advertising material, it had the jackets, it had the clipboards, the period clipboards of everything on them, it had all the tools in them, and what is unusual about that is normally the AA decommission them and take everything out of them. So I don't know how that one survived, but it had done. It did quite well. It made over 10,000 in the end, including premium, I think about 11, which some people couldn't get their heads around because it was a Maestro van, which they threw away in the early 90s. But it did really well, created a lot of interest, and I'm hoping the owner of it was a collector of that type of thing. He had several postal vans, AA vans and that sort of thing, so we hopefully should have maybe some more of his collection next year. Moving swiftly on, probably my favourite car of the year. Not because of the car particularly, but well, yes, I do love the car as well, but just the story of it really. I took a phone call back in August. I was out with my kids at the Sea Life Centre, and I took a phone call on the way home from somebody who said, a friend of mine has got an old BMW to sell. Is it worth anything? I said, well, what is it? He said, I don't know. He said, it's a bit like an old E30 BMW, which is a 3 Series, for those of you not in the know. And he said, it's a bit like an E30, but it's a 5 Series, and it's been off the road for 20 years. It's a 528, I think. He said, is it worth anything? And I said, I think you definitely need to get it to us, which we did. So the car came to us. It'd been off the road since 2005. But it was a 1982 BMW 528i, which was ordered new by a Kuwaiti sheikh who'd worked for the embassy in London back in the early 80s. And he had a driver, and what he did, he ordered the BMW 5 Series that no one would have done really. It had every conceivable extra you could imagine back in 1982. So much so that his local dealer couldn't facilitate what he wanted, so he had to go to Bavaria and order the car directly from the factory. But it had everything on it, because BMWs were known at the time for being very sparse. So they, radio it was an option rather than a standard feature on a premium car. But this car had full leather interior, a rear blind, which was almost unheard of in 1982 on this car, cruise control, anything you could think of on a BMW 5 Series, it had it. And he had the car up until 1999 when he retired back to Kuwait, and he gave the car to his driver. And the car had done 10,000 miles, so in best part of 20 years, it had done just 10,000 miles. His driver promptly sold it, and promptly did that. And it went to a guy who kept the car, well, our vendor. He kept the car for the next 26 years. He used it sparingly, put about 7,000 miles on it, and parked it up in 2004. So put it in a garage in the dry. He's since got a bit older, moved out of the country, spends a lot of his time abroad. And he said, he said to me when I spoke to him, I've got to get rid of that car. It's sat in a lockup. It's either going to deteriorate. It's going to, whatever's going to happen to it. It's kind of vulnerable. So he would have been happy with anything for that car. But it was quite a unicorn to find such a low mileage one, albeit needing recommissioning. But it's funny, and that's the joy of this job. People talk about, what do you think it's worth? And I had some people say it was worth £4,000. I had some people say it was worth £3,000. I had others say it was 20. And I thought it might make 8 to 10, and it ended up making 17,800 plus the premium. So it did really well. It deserved to. It really did deserve to. But it did really well, and I was chuffed for the owner, and he was obviously very pleased as well. My third choice is a modern classic, car of the moment, if you like. It's a Japanese car, so it's the car of the PlayStation era. It was a 2002 Subaru Impreza WRX Pro Drive. 2002 was the year that Richard Burns was the reigning world champion from the World Rally Championship. Having said that, he'd moved to the Peugeot team, just as a bit of by then. But anyway, the car was built really to capitalise on the marketing that the Subaru had won the previous year's World Rally Championship. And it was ordered new by a local man who owned his own MOT centre. So he took the car and had its services at Subaru, but he also doubled up on it and did services every 1,000 miles. This car had been mollycoddled. And unfortunately, he passed away in 2023. He was more of a mature gentleman, whereas obviously Subarus were bought to be driven hard. And as a result, a lot of them were crashed. Being an older Japanese car, they do suffer with the tin worm. So, but this one had been absolutely lovingly stored and looked after. And his widow came and saw me back in July and said, I've got this Subaru Impreza. Do you think it might make £15,000? And I said, it will. I said, it might make more. Again, this car deserved to make the money it did, but I'm glad we did do it its justice. And that one made 25.6 plus its premium. And there was really real keen bidding for that one. And I think that may look like quite a lot of money to people now, but I think in 10 years' time, it'll be the one people think, I wish I could have bought it for that, what it made then. So they're my 3 highlights of the year, I would say. There are others as well. I could go on all day long, but do you want to go to sleep? If you'd like to see more of my top picks, if you go to the website, we will provide a link below, above, I don't know, somewhere.